Okay guys, it's time to tackle this valve cover gasket job on this 2009 Cayenne S. I've been monitoring how much oil it's losing. It's not that bad. I mean, you do have to keep an eye on it, but it's time to fix it, and I got the gaskets. So let's take a look at what I got. So there's the valve cover gaskets. Got these from Pelican Parts, the whole kit. These are the gaskets for the camshaft, cam angle actuators that are actually fitted to the top of the valve cover, from what I understand. Not sure if I'm going to change those or not. They don't appear to be leaking much because you can see those are right on top. And then these are the spark plug hole gaskets, because it's got a deep offset that goes down into the plugs. So those, 8 of those, right, left, and then 2 of the camshaft angle sensor gaskets. So we'll start off by pulling all these engine bay covers. I think the proper order is these covers here first, over here, then the sides, and then the one in the back. Which, by the way, I replaced a bunch of these little fixing tabs or whatever. And some of this, you gotta spring this hood seal loose. I think it's this one in the back. It just pops up. Yeah, there it is. It was about ready to come off as it was. So I'm gonna yank all those, and then we'll do next step. Okay, all the engine compartment covers are off. Pulled the cover, decorative cover over the throttle body. Plenum, whatever that is, and then next thing will be to take these. It serves 2 purposes. It's a cover, and also I know this is the AOS, and then I got to pull these 2 hoses. They're a little bit tricky. You got to squeeze them carefully. It's warm out today, so I'm not too worried about these plastic hoses fracturing, if I'm careful, because they can be brittle. So let me remove all that. So it's all coming back to me now. You know, earlier video I did the spark plugs and coil packs, which when you do that, you do not have to pull this, which I'm pretty sure is the AOS. It's like a tank. However, to get this is separate. This cover off, to get to that Torx screw, you have to take the cover off the air filter. But if you go back and consult that video, you'll note that I found the magic combination to get this hard pipe out, because it was like seized up. So that should go pretty smoothly. And then so you turn these a certain way. I think that little nib has to be pointed the opposite way to the other little nib, and then this will slide out, and then you can reach down and get the clips that hold the cover on. So let me get that off on both sides. Right, so that gives you good access to all that, both sides. Important part of that, when you turn those little pins to the nibs, you've got to pull the pin. But yeah, and also I loosened up these 2 hose clamps to make it swivel around. So now I can take these covers off the coil packs, and also I've got to take loose on this, it's like a torque bar on the engine, Basically just loosen it up and swivel it back out of the way, and we'll go from there. All right, so those covers came off. When you get it's a 25 millimeter Torx. It actually goes into the reverse Torx that holds coil packs in place. They have a threaded hole in the head of them, which is very interesting. And then there's a little tab, so you actually lift up on the cover and then pull it away. You got to lift it up slightly to get it to detab, I guess. This one here is pretty tricky. What I had to do is just kind of take these hoses out of that holder and lift everything up. Of course, this coolant hose being the most problematic, I'll have to deal with that later as well. So I believe that is actually the sensor in the back for the camshaft. There's another sensor up front here, so we'll take a look at those when we take the cover off. Hey, and a rule of advice, don't drop any of these screws, because they're going to go down in the hole there and you're going to have to fish them out of the belly pan or whatever. So the next thing is to take these, I guess it'd be a chamber would be more of an accurate description. So yeah, look, it just pops right up. Let's take a look on the underside of that. Aha. So yeah, it's just got a basically evap on the valve cover. So it's taking vapors, oil vapors out, extracting those, and yeah, AOS, air oil separator. So this should be just basically a chamber. I don't know why, unless it was fractured, you'd ever even want to replace it. And there may be something going on inside of there, some kind of diaphragm. However, I do know that turret looking thing is definitely got a diaphragm in it, and at one time you could buy the diaphragm, and by carefully turning this cap you could change the diaphragm only. I believe that is not the case anymore. I think I read somewhere that you can't just buy the diaphragm. You have to buy the whole part. Okay, on the driver's side, there's an additional hose. It kind of falls in this valley here. It's right here. So it's got another one of those squeeze collars. Not sure exactly what its purpose is, but be mindful. It's hard plastic, and in cold weather, it'd probably want to break. Okay, so my coil pack connectors came off really easy. I used that dielectric grease on them when I installed the new ones. That was a good move. This front sensor, anybody that's worked on 944s will remember this connector from the injectors. It's basically got a metal clip. If you put a little screwdriver right in between that metal retaining clip and the collar and just pry it out a little on both sides, it'll slide off. Now this one in the back is a little tricky. It's got one of those press down tabs. Those can be stubborn if they haven't ever been removed. So what I did is slide my small flathead screwdriver kind of under it and lift up gently and press at the same time, and then slowly work it off. That helped immensely. Note that on that sensor, if you had to change it, it's got a security Torx. So that's a specialty tool. I know I have maybe one or two of those, but not a whole set. So next step is to pull all the coil packs, get this wiring harness out of the way. Now, One of the videos I watched, it talked about this wire here. It goes down to the air conditioner compressor. Talked about going down there and taking it off the compressor. But I don't know that that has to be done. I think once this harness comes loose off the top here, I'll be able to fish the cover out of there. We'll see how that goes. Alrighty then. Alright, so on the driver's side, which supposedly is the hardest one, and what I've read or watched is there's a cover bolt all the way back there. You see my middle finger's pointing at it, and it's a real troublesome. It's a Torx 40 is what all these were. So I got to figure out what the right combination of extensions and wobble joints and all that crap. So but the harness, it's just got like, oh, it's just those body studs is what's holding them. And also I noted that there's a couple more reverse Torx. Those are grounds to the valve cover, so I got to get those out, and then this whole harness will be free, and I can kind of move it out of my way here, and then fish back in there and try to figure out what I'm going to use to get that troublesome bolt out. Okay, so first thing, put a wire tie in here and move all this junk out of your way. Then fish a long extension kind of back behind it, and you can get a pretty good angle on that offending bolt. At least that's what I'm going to try. Alright, there's another one, and it's even harder to get to than the one I just pulled. Let me see if I can, you can barely see it in the middle of the frame there. It's at the bottom and the back up against the firewall. Now you got this insulation here, and this is really impeding. I'm just going to snip that out, just take that corner off of there, and that should help me get a Torx bit on it. Well, I've done some tough bolts, nuts on Porsches before, but this one, it about broke me. So what I had to do, I had to make my own special tool. And what it ended up being was that Torx ground down to fit inside of a ratcheting. I ended up being a 15 millimeter, but I had to grind down the exterior. I tried it first going into a 12 millimeter with the shank, but that put the wrench too close to the valve cover. So to get the right dimension, to get in between the valve cover and the fender and the firewall and all that, it turned out to be, I think it's a 40 Torx ground down, where it just drive it into there, because I don't use these ratcheting wrenches. It's a good excuse to buy some more. So let's look at that area again, because it sucks. Yeah, and I did trim as much as that insulation as I could get out of there without cutting into wires and stuff. Yeah, you can barely, you can get fingers on it and guide your tool in there, but I mean, it's really tight. And actually, to get the amount of braking force I needed and keep this tool aligned, I actually had to lay on top of the engine and guide it with my left hand, and then apply the braking force with my right hand, because you don't want to strip that one out. That would be awful. You'd probably have to drop the engine to get it out, to drill it out. I don't know. It would really suck. All right. Well, that's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. So let me yank this valve cover and we'll see what's underneath. All right. A little tight wiggling it out of there. But I mean, the cams and everything, they look pretty decent. There's not a lot of oily buildup. I think I did an oil change just in time. A little bit of residue up front here. This side, it's not apparent. You would think if it was leaking, it'd be rolling down the side here of the head. Yeah, probably so. I mean, I'm pulling up quite a bit of oil residue under there. Probably more like seeping, not a blatant leak. So, okay. So the one sensor is a Hall effects, and that's for that device there on your cam. Then I didn't know that this one was actually mounted on the head, whatever sensor this is. So hopefully that is the gasket I got, because yeah, pulling that, you want to replace that for sure. All right, let's look at the cover. So that's the back side of the oil fill. There's that gasket there. Then you have gasket for each of the spark plug holes, which actually none of those showed any leakage. And then looking along the bottom here, let's pull it out a little if we can. I need to get a pick on it, but I imagine it's pretty crusty. It's flatter than hell, that's for sure. So yeah, it was time. All right, I'm gonna get the other one off, and hopefully it's not as bad as that last one. Holy crap. Okay, looks like sort of the same situation, a little bit more room. There's one, see it at the end of my finger there, way back in there. Should be able to get an extension back in there. I'm going to pull this little tray thing. Not sure what purpose it serves, but I'll take it off, and that should enable me to get my extension back in there a little bit better. All right, driver's side, 1000% easier. No, you do not have to disconnect the air conditioner compressor. There is enough slack in the harness to fish the cover out. That back bolt out on the bottom wasn't too bad. And yeah, now we can move on. So one of the things I've seen in other YouTube videos is there's a little bit of a lip there on these two mating surfaces. So what everybody's recommending is putting just a tiny dab of RTV there and right there, and you can feel the difference with your fingertip. I didn't quite get that right. That's unfortunate. Otherwise, this one was definitely leaking down here, and that probably wasn't helping anything. And it was a little crusty. It was sticking to the head when I pulled the cover. So next thing is clean up these mating surfaces and put the new gaskets on. Hallelujah. All right, that was pretty straightforward. As far as which one goes where, these round areas, half circle areas, well, the first gasket I pulled, I didn't check the part number. It obviously didn't fit properly. So kind of go by those. Also, they've left a little nubby area where you want to put that RTV here and here. I put just a tiny dab on each one of the O-rings for the spark plugs, just to kind of hold them in there as I maneuver the thing in place. Those were really crusty. A couple of them were like fracturing when I pulled them. And yes, that seal for that sender, whatever it is, pretty straightforward. Use a hook and pick. It pulls right out and just pushes right in. So really straightforward. Let me get this one back in the car. Well, it was almost as hard putting that one bolt back in as it was taking it out. I mean, that is rough. Back of my hands tore all to hell. But I got both valve covers back on, and hopefully it's a good seal. So now I'm putting the wiring harness back in place and getting everything plugged back up, and then I'll do the coil packs. Once I get everything just where it's in running state, I'm going to run it before I put all the covers on. Well, I had a little bit of lunch, and I thought, but that's actually where the torque wrench hit me in the jaw. Golly. Pelican site says 5 hours for this job. Took me 8. That one bolt back there is MF. But I got everything back on, fired right up, went around with the inspection mirror looking at the edges of the valve covers, and I'm not seeing any weeping or anything like that, so I think I did okay. Yeah, it's not, if it weren't for those 1 or 2 bolts back there in the back, this would be a piece of cake. But that's typical Porsche engineering, where they just don't think about servicing the engines, or, you know, I don't know. I can think of a few on 944 turbo that are just about inaccessible. So all I got to do is put all the covers back on and drive this thing and keep monitoring oil levels. At some point I'll need to get it up on the lift. Yeah, that was another deal. I didn't have it on the lift, so every time I dropped something down the belly pan, I had to fish it out with a magnet. That you got to have a magnet on a telescoping stick when you do this job, because you are going to drop things. Another note, these seals around these sensors, put a little assembly lube on them, because they're super tight. And yeah, I didn't do that on the driver's side, and I did it on the passenger side, and it went much better. What else is a little bit odd? I did spray some brake cleaner in these aero oil separator chambers or whatever. I got a little bit of residue out of them, not a ton. So the diaphragm still might be good. I don't know, you know, how much blow by you get from these engines. And at 140,000 miles, it's probably got more than when it came off the factory floor. So I'm just going to keep monitoring that. The telltale sign on a bad diaphragm would be white smoke, copious amounts of white smoke, especially at startup and even while you're driving. What else? I guess that's about it, guys. Post comments, questions, whatever. It's a job. Tackle it if you want. Hopefully it'll be the last one on a Cayenne that I ever do. Thanks for watching, and come back and see us again.